Well, folks, Tyler Perry hinted at this, I believe, after the Homecoming film came out or before. Either way, it's been a while, but Tyler Perry is finally making a Joe movie. It's called Joe's College Road Trip. And it looks like the shooting dates will take place between January 8th through March the 1st. Which, if you remember, at some point during January, they're supposed to be working on the production for the Madea's Destination Wedding as well. So it is pretty interesting that we're getting a Joe film. I don't know if this is going to be counted as one of the Netflix Madea films. I feel like this is going to be its own thing. But Tyler Perry is the writer and director. And there are 3 different producers. Mr. Perry himself, Will Aru, and Angie Bones. Okay, so instead of doing a bunch of different videos where, oh, here's a video where Joe gets a movie, here's the title, here's a video with the storyline, and here's a video with the cast, thankfully all this information was sent to me at one time, so the video is going to encompass everything. All right, the plot is this. Realizing he may have sheltered his son for too long, which makes sense. I mean, you look at how Brian is, and I guess his son is the, what's his name? BJ. I think BJ is Brian Jr. But in any case, if you look at how Brian acts and possibly, sheltering his son and considering how rebellious his daughter is, yeah, I understand that. Okay, Brian begrudgingly agrees to send his son on a college tour with his grandfather in the hopes that Joe can teach him a thing or two about Black history and the real world. Ideally without getting them both killed in the process. Generations clash as the two embark and they quickly run into trouble. I mean, this is Joe we're talking about. What else would you expect? But somewhere along the way, BJ gains a new perspective on the generations that came before him and comes to appreciate his grandpa Joe. Now, if you can bear with me, there is a bit of a lengthy list. I'd count at least 3, 6, 9... close to, if not more than 12 to 15 different characters. I want to go through them one by one. Vicky, in her 40s, white, privileged, and entirely lacking in self-awareness. She is Brian's neighbor who hosts a party for the high school graduates. She is often called a Karen, but thinks people are just mistakenly using the wrong name. Looks like her husband is Garrett, in his 40s, white, successful, and privileged. Garrett is Vicky's husband and Brian's neighbor. His attempts to be a guy's guy with Brian often results in problematic comments. He attempts to avoid making Brian mad without any self-reflection. So it's probably one of those things where he tries to be hip and cool. It's like, hey, brother. And it's like, yeah, nah, man. Pearl, 50s to 60s, open ethnicity female, feisty and tough. She is the madam of an old-fashioned brothel that she took over after her mother's passing. When Joe stops in with his grandson, Pearl is happy to see an old friend, and the two of them share their frustrations regarding the younger generations. Gangster 1, 20s to 30s male. Bear with me. The photos I was sent were a little blurry, and I'm trying to blow them up to see the language here. This hardened gangster and his crew track down Destiny in an attempt to reclaim their property. They aren't the types to go down easy and will kill to get what they want. Middle Eastern accent preferred. I think Iranian is the ethnicity this role needs. I don't see a Destiny. The name Destiny sounds familiar. Huh, okay. Geraldine, 50s, 60s, black female, the friendly owner of an old school juke joint. Geraldine greets Joe with open arms as he arrives with BJ for a meal. Her chicken is to die for, but the phrase gluten-free has never appeared on her menu. I imagine BJ, being as sheltered as he is, mentions, do you have anything gluten-free? What? Stewart, 18, 19 years old. He is one of BJ's high school friends who shares his family's privileged ignorance. So I believe he might be the son of Vicky and Garrett. He sees the concept of a historical black college as racist against white people and assumes everyone and their experiences are equal. Whew. He's probably going to appear at the beginning of the film. Tommy, white, 40s to 50s male, an imposing biker. He's a racist man who attempts to corner BJ and Joe when they accidentally stumble into a rebel honky-tonk bar. You know, I'm just reaching with this one, but wouldn't it be interesting if it's the same bar that we saw in like the final season of If Loving You Was Wrong, where Alex went and rode on the mechanical bull, then Brandel tried to show up and grab her, but then everybody in there, the white patrons, kind of, glared at him until he left. And the bartender was played by the same actor that plays Kyle on The Oval. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, Catherine, not Catherine Cryer. 70s to 80s, open ethnicity, female in her 80s. Catherine is an old friend of Joe's who runs a motel where Joe often stays during his travels. Ain't no telling where he be traveling as high as he gets. She's happy to hook him up with special service for the night. Todd, 18 to 19 years old, white. He's one of BJ's high school friends who shares his family's privileged ignorance. He thinks the debate around race is pointless and assumes there's nothing to be concerned about these days. He doesn't seem to be the brother of Stuart. So perhaps we have, I think this party that Vicky's throwing is mostly going to be white people, and BJ is going to be one of few, if not the only black person there. So yeah. Herbert in his 90s and white. He's a war vet who hangs out at a rebel honky-tonk bar. Okay, must be related to that Tommy character, at least in the location, I mean. Despite his ignorant views, he respects a fellow vet and allows BJ and Joe to escape the bar without a fight. Okay, that's cool. Bartender, 30s, open ethnicity, male or female. This bartender serves drinks at a roadside drive and doesn't say much when a few gangsters show up asking questions about a missing girl. Probably those, I believe the Iranians who are looking for Destiny. Alice, in her 80s, white. Alice is a child psychiatrist and one of Brian's neighbors. She offers him some largely unhelpful advice and tells him she's going to bill him for their conversation. Wow. Gotta love it. Okay, 4 more characters here. Melanie, 16 to 18, white. This high school girl catches Brian as he's returning home to collect the payment he offered in exchange for... Oh, wow. Dang. This high school girl catches Brian as he's returning home to collect the payment he offered in exchange for her taking BJ to prom, which she says has put a dent in his reputation at school. Wow, wow, Brian. I mean, I went to prom alone, but still, it's like, sheesh. Assistant, 20s, female, open ethnicity. This is Brian's assistant at the VA's office to help him track down Destiny's information so Brian can determine his son's whereabouts. Okay, so the Destiny storyline is interesting. Hooker, 20, open ethnicity, female. This escort is seen leaving the room after a session in a chat. Must be the brothel thing. Librarian, 50s, 60s, female, open ethnicity. This librarian chastises Joe for loudly cursing in a library. So, folks, that is pretty much the upcoming Joe film in a nutshell. Didn't Tyler hint at like a Joe movie? Yeah, wait, I think he hinted at this after Madea family funeral. He's like, yeah, what if we had like Joe, Brian, and Hetero going to Vegas or something like that? So it looks like we're getting a Joe road trip movie, but it's not quite the movie, fans expected based off what he said, which is cool. I feel like a Joe movie is going to be pretty fun because I think that Tyler can implement some interesting black history in this film because he knows a lot of younger people love the Madea stuff and Joe. So to make a Joe film, which is going to hopefully teach the younger generation about black history, is going to be great. I think that one thing I hope this movie doesn't do too much is talk down to the current generation, because that's the one thing I knew growing up I didn't like when I was watching, content that was made to kind of teach the younger generation. It's like you can teach the younger generation, but you don't have to hammer in their ignorance about it. Oh, you young people don't know this and that. And it's like, well, that's usually because if you think about it, and I'm not trying to preach here, but if you really think about it, think of the current generation that's growing up in like elementary and middle school. How many states and whatnot over the past like year or two have been trying to take black history out of the schools and whatnot? And on top of that, how many of the older generation are actually talking to, not talking down, but talking to the younger generation about Black history and whatnot. So that's just something I hope that this movie doesn't really, put in there too much. I mean, like a couple of the characters I described, it said, Joe and insert this older character talk about the ignorance of this generation. So it's like, I hope that it's tastefully done. That's really what it boils down to. So with that being said, are you excited for the upcoming Joe film? If so, give this video a thumbs up to show you like it. Of course, as soon as any more information comes out, I'll be more than happy to cover it on the channel. Just to give you a heads up, I'm drowning right now in Tyler Perry content. Sister stuff, Satima stuff, House of Pain stuff. This Joe movie literally landed in my lap not too long ago, but I'm happy to see it. But yeah, that's all I have. Like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description. Hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next video.